This is UMAR AHMED for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. Privileged to be joined by EUBANK SNR. What have you been up to?
Police work in the United States, in Louisiana, and Africa. Let me say that again. Africa. One more time. Africa. A very well-kept secret. I've been in Rwanda. I've gone guerrilla trekking. You will get some videos uploaded to my YouTube channel in the not too distant future. I've been kissing giraffes, beautiful creatures. You know, one of the aspects which really stood out to me is the fact that they glistened. The health of these animals is extraordinary. Why? Because they're eating vegetation, and only vegetation. So it goes to show me that when you're eating, I suppose, food that's processed and not vegetable kind of based, you can't shine, you can't glow, you can't be as good looking as you could be, like those giraffes and bucks. All the animals, they just, I mean, if putting aside the ones which have hair, the sheen is something else. So it just proves that vegetation, eating greens, is just very powerful.
Okay. Why Rwanda specifically?
It's a very well-kept secret. It's a beautiful place. I mean, so clean. And you go out into the country or into the forest or the jungle, it is just an incredible place. You know, and unfortunately, all we ever get in the news is that there are things which are, you know, it's like a negative conversation about Africa, but it is beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
What was this decision to go out there and not base yourself with Junior in preparation for the DeGALE fight?
I've always been with Junior, whether you see me or not. There's telecommunications, and advanced telecommunications. So Junior and I are always in touch.
Because there seems to be a suggestion that you've taken a sort of back seat in Junior's life.
Well, that kind of really makes no sense. Why? Because I'm his father, and a father is always there, if not physically, then in spirit. And as I say, with the technological advances when it comes to communication today, in terms of FaceTime, in terms of simple, you know, phone communication, it's I'm as good as there.
Of course, there is a notable difference in Junior's camp this time round with Nate Vasquez involved as a full-time trainer. What are your thoughts on that?
He's got, you know, as I've pointed out to Junior, anyone even competent would be good for him. Anyone even competent, so long as he's listening. I tell you, he would have been a very good trainer for him.
Who's that?
Shane McGUIGAN. Would have been a very good trainer for him.
Did you suggest that to Junior?
I'm not going to tell you that, okay? No comment on that. I will also suggest that even George Groves, because he actually said, and I think he was doing it to wind Junior up, but that would have been a very good idea, because ultimately, what is this about? It's about winning. And there's no one better than people who are in study. But if you can listen, then you have a humility. And if you have a humility, then you can go to the top. This is the reason I was able to actually change the game and make box office become, you know, a reality. Why? Because you may laugh, but I was always humble. Always. In the ring, never. You're always going to see that. You're always going to see, but outside of the ring, always humble, always willing to listen to not just my elders, anyone who had sense to speak. So, you know, when you can be gallant, you know, when you understand chivalry, these are the things that gives you a foundation, and from that foundation of humility, you can rise. So Shane McGUIGAN would have been a very good trainer for Junior. Would have loved to have seen that. And who knows, maybe it can happen in the future.
What would you like me to call you? English?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I have, shall I go through the amount of nicknames that I have?
Sure.
Well, we can start with, as you said, English. A wonderful and spectacular ideology because of this complexion. English. And my father, his nickname was English. He loved the English language. It's the beautiful language I know, and I admire those who can speak it beautifully, or those who can pronounce. And as a point of fact to you, the fighters, and you, the people who are watching this particular broadcast, better your vocabulary. I mean, I had a dictionary it was a Webster's dictionary, and I studied words. And there's nothing wrong with studying words. It's good, because then you're able to communicate your point of view. And if you can't, then you sound like a moron. I'm not actually calling anyone a moron. I'm saying you will be perceived as a moron if you cannot speak, and it's only a matter of practice. I only speak well because I practice. And certainly if you're in the boxing business or sports business or in any business of communicating, better your vocabulary and speak gently, clearly and quietly. And then all those principles come into play of listening to others, even the dull and the ignorant. Listen to people. Speak. It's going to make you more money. It's going to make people understand you better. Ghettoifying yourself doesn't actually work. It isn't clever. Okay, so there was other points you wanted me to make, which were?
Of course. DeGALE made a comment recently saying he's boxing royalty compared to your son. What do you make of that comment?
It's actually good talk, because it creates interest. Really, he's saying that? Well, what's Junior's reaction? So, and effectively, he may have grounds to say it, because after all, he was a gold medalist in the Olympics, right?
Of course. And
so, he's got the right to say that. So it's for Junior to come back and actually retort. And that creates interest, and so nothing wrong with him saying that.
Ronnie Davis has come out and said, on IFL actually, that even with a full-time trainer in place, he's not sure between the rounds if Chris will listen.
You can bring a horse to water, but can you make the horse drink? See, my view now is this. Junior has all the tools, okay, and so it's down to you now. I mean, you've had great advice, you've had adequate advice. So if you can't hear, then you learn the hard way. And this is the same for all fighters. So I'm not just looking at my son. James DeGALE has every right to win if he has done the work, and if he has paid attention to the respect he should have for those who he should be respecting. Perhaps. See, no one knows. Nobody knows what can happen on a particular night. I thought Junior would have annihilated Saunders. I thought he would have annihilated Groves. It didn't happen. And so you can't really guess what I thought I knew. Obviously, I got that wrong. Still, he has all the tools to be an exceptional fighter. Exceptional. Let's see whether he can actually use those tools. When he fought Blackwell, I thought, this is just... If you look at the Blackwell fight, and obviously very unfortunate about the outcome or the aftermath, but that performance was just... I was looking at brilliance. And if he could apply himself in... So it doesn't really matter. Or no? some people wouldn't buy that. I was going to say it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. Can you perform like that? Because obviously he's got the tools, the hand speed, the volume in terms of rate of punching. What couldn't he do in my head? I thought this was, a man who could replace Mayweather. And maybe he still can. But now I've got to stand back and just watch and look. Because obviously things don't always add up to what you think, because you don't know what's going on in the head of an individual.
In your opinion, why didn't he turn up in Manchester against Groves?
In my opinion, no comment.
Okay. Is that the same with the Billy Joe Saunders fight?
Again, no comment. What can I say? Because I could be right, but if I'm wrong, then it's just conjecture, and it's not fair to him, because I don't know what's in his head.
Okay. You mentioned about DeGALE's pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you believe that Junior will come out on top next Saturday?
Well, hold on, I don't know whether that will be the case. I mean, I believe Junior can. He's got all the tools. He actually has the tools to do a lot of damage to anyone. But will he turn up? And that's what's really fascinating about this fight for me. If he turns up, I know that I'm going to see brilliance. I'm going to be really entertained if he turns up. If he doesn't turn up, then if he doesn't turn up, then it's a disappointment, because I know what he can do. I've seen him do it. If he doesn't turn up, then it's a bit of a letdown. But if he turns up, oh my goodness.
If he does turn up and look sensational winning against DeGALE, what sort of fights do you expect him to be in the future?
Saunders. Listen, my view is, you go to the things that you can do, and that he has to reverse for his own self-comfort. He would like the opportunity to reverse that. So that's a fight that I would engineer along with AHMED, or, as I say, Richard Poxon, because he actually works on behalf of AHMED.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be a good fight for Junior, 1 and 2. We went up to super middleweight because of this opportunity with the World Boxing Super Series, but he's not really a super middleweight. So, he's walking around even now.
170, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
It's about 2 pounds over the weight. And actually on fight night, when he fights, he'll only, again, be 2 pounds over the weight. So he doesn't go up to 13 stones. So middleweight is his weight.
So regardless of next Saturday, do you expect Junior to go down back to 160?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't expect. I mean, this is what he will be advised.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he already agrees with that. He says himself he's not really a super middleweight.
Obviously, we mentioned George Groves a couple of weeks ago. He announced his retirement. What were your thoughts?
Sometimes you can retire, but it's more of, he seems a very steady man. His frequency seems very calm and introspective. But in this world we live in, it could be that it's. I think I think he'll still be in the game. Because it's too tempting, especially when you're looking at all of these guys. I mean, he got caught with the body shot. The fight against Callum, to me, he was winning the fight. He was winning the fight. It's probably very hard because the pressure on him of a tall fighter pressuring you or standing in front of you and keeping that disciplined stance, that textbook stance, and being very sharp with that jab, it probably it probably made him feel as though, it probably made him feel as though it was that Callum was ahead. For me, I thought his jab was beautiful. I thought, yes, he had to move a great deal, but I thought he was winning the fight. So that body shot, which was a good body shot, and credit to him saying, I'm embarrassed because, to get stopped with a body shot is just not me. I'm embarrassed. So that doesn't sound to me like a guy who's going to stay retired, especially as the promoters. They love him. Why? Because he is a crowd pleaser in terms of his performance. So I think, there is a chance that he will come out of retirement.
Okay.
And even if he doesn't, it's an interesting thought that someone, who retired 20 years ago, who has the experience that I have, has that view. No, the world is a vexing place, and where ego is concerned, we are all egotistical. Now he's a very calm and cool character, very calm and cool. Still, these promoters are like, come on, have a look. How about this? Smell what's going on over here. There's money over here. There is limelight over here. There is importance. There is ego over here. Can't you smell? So let's see what happens. I like George Groves, and how can you not like him? Gentleman.
You've mentioned you want the Billy Joe Saunders rematch.
Mm-hmm.
What did you sort of make of him failing a VADA drugs test?
Okay, so how I have to, the way I have to answer that is not for him. It's for all the other fighters and individuals. You cannot cheat, because if you do, it stays with you for life. So don't get involved. So you use him as the example. He will always have that hanging over his head. Yeah, you were a champion, but you got involved in something that will always stay with him, that stain. I didn't do it to you, so and effectively you are now an example, and you'll be an example for the rest of your life. And so let that be a lesson to everybody else looking in at you. I'm not saying anything bad, I'm just saying what is obvious. No one's going to forget that, especially the people upset in boxing, because they will talk against you and always remind you of what you were found guilty of. Just me bringing it up is controversial towards you. Your fans will not like me bringing it up. But I've got to look out for the rest of the community at large, who you are an example to for what they mustn't do.
Can I zoom in on that badge?
Sure, of course.
What does that say? Sergeant?
I'm a sergeant.
Okay.
There have been some people who have said, well, really? Yes. Protect and serve. My job as a police officer is to talk to youngsters, the hundreds of millions of people around the world who know my career. If I am a police officer, why? Because I believe in protecting the community. And you don't actually have to be wearing a badge to protect the community. Because I was always doing it before I had the badge. And it's only a matter of karma why I actually have the badge. Because I've always been protecting and serving. It is my language. And I suppose, let me tell you how it happened. In fact, I was talking to the chief of police in Louisiana, and I explained to him the Warriors Code. And no doubt you have heard it, but I'll say it again, because if you look at it, it's all again about exactly what the police do, protect and serve. The warrior is strong, yet His sleep is fragile. His wisdom, an amalgamation of precedent, yet his decisions cannot be based on the frailties of man. He is rather fueled by divine inspiration, ascending from the heart. He knows not anger, and only fears the unknown. The warrior does not judge, for his true assignment is to deliver evidence of superior behavior to the creator of all men. The warrior does not dream of frontiers. He only sees horizons. The warrior is a creature of irony, for his genuine task is to ensure peace. The true warrior knows, accepts, and embraces above all integrity, which is his course. The golden thread of integrity, which is his course in life. Reason, and because it obeys itself, reason is his only weapon. Always use your brains to defuse and de-escalate situations, and forgiveness, the one true cleansing virtue. And only when one can fully absorb these most divine of all virtues can one at last see how impossible and futile it is to make war. That is the foundation of every policeman. Protect and serve. Look after the community at large. If my daughter gets hurt out there, it's only a matter of chance that it wasn't your daughter. So therefore, we all have to be our brother's keeper. We have to look after each other. And this falls under the beautiful and wonderful and magnificent foundation of chivalry. Looking after the female state, being honorable. Even when you beat your opponent, you help him up. You speak well of him. You are gallant. And these are the prerequisites that makes police officers or warriors or modern day knights. It's a little bit difficult because you become the odd one out. But in becoming the odd one out, you become a benchmark. And being a benchmark is a wonderful vocation because you are then an example. There's not enough of us. And all those who will criticize anyone for standing up for being decent, you're going to have children. Okay, you need Tony Montana, you need people like me so you can point your fingers. So that's how it goes.
English, thank you very much.
Pleasure.